Hey guys, this is MoxFox. Just want to let you know this video is not sponsored. All thoughts are my own. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to see the channel grow, there's links to my Patreon down below. Thank you very much. In a world gone mad, a fight for survival rages on. One man, one knife, man versus nature. That man is Bear Grylls. Now you may be confused why I'm showing you the Bear Grylls knife, and that's because, like many others, they were released around this time. This knife is based upon the Gerber LMF2, a good knife, but because of a lot of factors was rushed to market and saw a lot of problems from the first gen ones, like the ones you see before you. But let's get into a little bit of history. In the early 2000s, we saw a surge of survival-based entertainment. Shows like Survivor and Man vs. Wild, movies like Castaway, I Am Legend, Dawn of the Dead, 28 Weeks Later, World War Z had fascinated people. Survival had become the newest trend, and lots of companies wanted in. This led to the market being flooded with anything and everything survival related. It didn't matter if the item was meant to be for camping, bushcraft, search and rescue, EDC, or hiking. The term survival had become a catch-all for everything. And if you put it on the package, the knife or tool suddenly demanded a higher price tag and people would buy it. Now, there were other factors going on at that time, but these were just a few examples of how the market was at that time. It was around that time I started to get big into bushcraft and camping. I would spend most of my week in the woods, and at that time I was going through cheap knives like crazy. So I started to look to something a little bit better suited for my needs. And I was quickly overwhelmed. K-Bar, Essie, Gerber, and even Cold Steel were all names thrown at me from everywhere I looked. And I even went down the rabbit hole of knife steels. 1095, 1075, stainless, were all anyone could seem to talk about. Forums and videos all talking about the trade-offs of rust resistance versus toughness, and how you had to pick one or the other. Now this was not true. There were other steels being used at that time, but the market was being flooded with blades, so it was kind of hard to work out what was just marketing and what was real life use. Around 2011 is when I started to get fed up with knives. I would buy one, it would chip, it would break, it would dull. So I made the decision to invest into a better knife. Something that would hold up and I wouldn't have to worry about. So after a few months of digging, I found certain names coming up time and time and time again. Stuff like the SE4, Becker BK2, and I believe even the Cold Steel SAK or SK5 or something along that line. One of those Cold Steels at the time. But each of these knives always had a back and forth between people talking about them. Whether it was just, the handle sucks, or you have to carry a knife sharpening system with you. Needless to say, I was torn on what to buy. It was around this time a friend of mine shared a video with me of a newer company, Survive Knives. And after watching the video, I was interested and wanted to learn more. This was a newer company and had made claims that at the time were just outright ridiculous. The best of both worlds. The strength higher than 1095, but with lots more corrosion resistance. Amazing edge retention from this powdered super steel. Now at that time, powdered steel didn't sound very good. Wouldn't you want your steel to be hard and not powder? That was my thought, at least at the time. Mostly because I didn't know much about steels. So a few more videos later of Cold Steel destroying a car with a folding knife and Survive doing, and I quote, something good old stupid. Video after video, he put his knives to the test. Videos of this maker hammering a blank into a tree and doing pull-ups on it, smashing rocks, or even going as far as to anchor one to a tree and rappel off a cliff, leaving that video with the phrase, if you don't trust your knife with your life, then why is it in your kit? After that, I made my decision. In late September 2012, I ordered both the GSO 10, and a month later I ordered the GSO 4.1. Around the end of February, when I got both in, I was excited to open the box. And in all honesty, I was kind of underwhelmed. There was no fancy packaging, no frills. They were just knives in Kydex sheaths that I still have to this day. But I decided I wanted to move on to making my own sheaths. First, I will start with the GSO 10. As per tradition, I did the most scientific test I could. Yep, shaves hair straight out of the box, just like he said. Kydex sheath fitted well, fitted perfect handle, no bend or warp in the blade, nice finish, everything was looking good. Now the GSO 4.1. Yep, shaving sharp, nice handle, good sheath, nothing wrong. The blade, everything looked good. Now, as at this point, I was a little bit hesitant on these blades. They sounded good from everything I heard, and out of the box they looked good, but they were a little bit lackluster. But I'll get on to more of that later. Now time to take them out. I'd be lying if I said I did anything but baby these knives for the first month or so. Even going so far as to check the edge after every cut, bringing backup knives just in case they broke. But after a while, I started to use them for just about everything when camping and bushcrafting. I'm not a person that likes to abuse knives. I don't like to stress test them, push them to their limits. No matter what I did to these knives, including batoning, they always held up and kept going. The edge stayed nice and sharp for a very long time. No chips, no breaking, they just kept going. Now, 10 years later, every time I go into the woods, these are the first 2 knives that go into my bag. Now, occasionally I will bring other knives, but it's usually either just to test them out or for very specific tasks. Now, I'm going to quickly go over specs of these knives before I get into my thoughts after 10 years. First, the GSO 10. Blade length of 10 inches, overall length of 15.9 with a height of just a hair under 2 inches. Now you're looking at 250 thousandths of an inch stock. The material you're looking at is CPM 3V. It has a Rockwell hardness of 59 and is treated by Peter's Heat Treat, which has done all of Survive Knives. The GSO 4.1, with a blade length of 4 inches, an overall length of 9.1 inches, a height of 1 inch and 125 thousandths, and a blade thickness 15 thousandths of an inch. It is an M390 steel, and you are looking at a Rockwell hardness of, I believe for this one was 59, but I'm not 100% on that one. Both knives came in Kydex sheets, which I have shown, and both are in a saber grind. Both did come with black micarta handles. The 4.1, I did order the bow drill divot in this one. So now we ask the big question, what do these knives do good and what do they do bad? Some of the things I'm about to talk about are personal preference, and others have already been fixed on the newer versions. I won't be highlighting what has been changed exactly on the newer models versus these ones. I will just point out my thoughts as I go, and most of the stuff I have a problem with has already been fixed on the newer ones. First, the 4.1. Now, as I've said before, they're lackluster. They're not show knives, they're made to be used. They have been designed with this whole idea in mind, and the idea of hard use and a long-lasting knife. But that does come with some trade-offs. Because this blade steel is so thick, and because of the grind, it's a lot harder to do some finer tasks. I found a thinner blade, such as this Mora, a lot easier to do feather sticks with, but that just might be user error and not the knife. You never have to fear about this knife breaking while batoning. This is a crazy strong knife and will definitely be something I can hand down to my kid, because this thing's gonna outlive me. The handle is very comfortable, and even after a full day's use, I find there's no hot spots, no discomfort, nothing. Fits perfectly in the hand. The jimping on the back of the knife is not super aggressive like on some other ones, but it's also not tiny either. It's a good balance between the two to give you enough grip, but you're not slicing your fingers. Some of the other things that's not so great about this knife is the spine. They have rounded over the edges, which is great so you don't actually cut your fingers, but it also means that it's not very good at throwing sparks with a ferro rod. This model came with the bow drill divot, and I kind of wish I didn't actually get it. In all my time using this knife, I've never once used the bow drill hole. Mostly because that means taking it out of the sheath and holding a knife up like this where it could slip and hurt me, and it's just something that I was always afraid of. I've always made other tools to actually do bow drills. Now moving over to the GSO 10, this thing is a beast. It chops like crazy. It takes chunks out of trees and makes splitting logs so easy. The blade stays sharp for a very long time. There's a finger choil that allows you to choke up on the blade for a lot finer of tasks. This large finger choil also makes it super easy to sharpen the blade because there's so much room away from the handle. So now a few negatives. First, the handle tends to slip a little when you're trying to chop because it is a very, very heavy knife, but this can be solved by putting a lanyard on it and mounting it to your hand. I wish they came with the same handles as the GSO 4.1, but that might just be personal preference on my end. One issue, and it's not just with these knives, it's with any knife using a super steel, is sharpening. Because you're using a metal that takes a lot longer to wear down, it also means that it takes a lot more to sharpen compared to something like a 1095. So if you've never bought a knife with a super steel before, make sure you invest into a good knife sharpening system to make sure you maintain that edge. As we move forward, we're going to see a lot more of these super steels come out, and you will need a knife sharpening system of some sort in order to maintain this edge. Looking back after 10 years, would I still buy these? And the answer is yes. They're absolutely fantastic. They're going to outlive me. I do have a few issues with them, but most of that has just become personal preference over the years. The 4.1, I would have actually wished I could have got the larger one, the 5.5, or something at least another inch or so longer. I also wish I didn't get that bow jewel divot. For the GSO 10, the only thing I would really change on this one would have been the handles for the newer models that have a swelled handle to make it a lot better fit in your hand. That all said, these are the first two knives that go in my bag when I go out into the woods before anything else, because I do trust them. The knife steel holds an edge like crazy. These things will chop down whatever I throw at them. So, in closing, my expectation with these knives were very low because I've seen knife after knife fail on me in one way or another, but they really did blow me away. They're worth the price. Their quality is absolutely astounding. Straight from the factory, they are hair shaving sharp. They'll take a beating and keep on going, and they are definitely worth everything I paid for them. So have you used another version of Survive Knives? Let me know in the comments below, and remember, never stop learning.